Hello again, YouTube Truth Man here. So I want to get into some reasons why a lot of people think Tom Brady is the #1 quarterback of all time. I want to get into, and this is no disrespect to you, Tom Brady. I know you get a little sensitive about this kind of stuff, but you're #2, which is quite an accomplishment itself. And I'm going to get into why I believe that Joe Montana is the GOAT of quarterbacks of all time. I'm gonna get into some reasons why. They say, well, one of the arguments people make, they say, well, Tom Brady never had Jerry Rice or a John Taylor. Yeah, but Tom Brady had other advantages that we're gonna talk about. So let's get into this, why I believe that Joe Montana is the greatest of all time and Tom Brady is #2. Number one, some of the rules. Okay, so when Joe Montana was playing, the cornerback can touch the receiver practically going all the way up the field, and less pass interferences were being called during the 80s and the early 90s. Like, you could practically abuse receivers going up and down the field, and the referee will tell you, man, just play the game. So the rule, the little 5-yard rule, I think is one of the things that, to me, would keep Tom Brady from being the GOAT, because the fact that those receivers were getting abused like they were would mean he will have less time to pass. Or if he rushed the pass, then it would probably be picked off or be incomplete. Whereas with the rules, these receivers are faster. So that rule benefits like a quarterback. Like, say you have a Tyreek Hill. You can't touch him after 5 yards. He already gone. So no. The rules is the first reason. The #2 reason is the level of competition. This is not taking nothing away from some of the players that Brady faced, such as Brian Dawkins, Harrison. Like, he faced some good competition, but it's not the competition that Montana faced week after week. You had the Rams, they had Vince Ferragamo, they had Henry Ellard, all those dudes. They could match you point for point. High-scoring teams, man. Now it's like a lot of these teams, they can't even complete a pass. And what happened with the Falcons, that I only saw that happen in one time in a highly competitive playoff type game. And that's the time that the Bills, I was furious as a kid, when the Bills came back and beat the Tennessee Titans, and the Tennessee Titans were up 35-3. To me, that's kind of similar how Brady was able to come back on the Falcons. Now, would Brady have been able to come back on the 49ers? No. Why? Because you had Ricky Waters and Roger Craig in the backfield. They would have moved the chains, and then if he needed to pass, he had Dwight Clark, he had John Taylor, he had Jerry Rice. You say, well, that's why he ain't the GOAT. Listen to what I'm telling you, man. The rules were different. Even though he had John Taylor and Jerry Rice, they were getting abused all the way up the field. They were holding their jersey, all type of stuff. Then you had to get past the cheaters, which is another thing. Like Lester Haynes with the stickum. He was a great cover guy regardless. And then you throw his way and the ball sticking to his gloves. Then you had the Cleveland Browns, who had Bob Golick. They had Frank Minifield, Hanford Dixon. So they was getting pressure on the quarterback, which is the next thing. The next reason why I say Joe Montana is the GOAT is because the pass rushers were far superior to the pass rushers now. You can't tell me they wasn't. You had the New York Sack Exchange with Mark Gastineau and Joe Klecko, Lions, and what's his name, Ahmad, I forgot his name, the black guy. Then you had the Patriots who can match him point for point. You had the Dan Fouts, what they call it, Eric Coryell. They just carve you to death. You score on our defense, that's okay. We coming right back with Kellen Winslow, all them. So, and Montana had to beat Lawrence Taylor in that defense. He had to beat the 85 Bears, who y'all say, okay, well, they only won the Super Bowl in 85. Yeah, but they still had those same Bear teams who are just competitive like that all through the 80s, though. So he had to beat the Bears. He had to beat the Giants. The Redskins were good with Joe Theismann, Dexter Manley. It was like every week you had to bring it. Not saying they didn't, he didn't, but it's different. I'm telling you, I see both eras. I judge them unbiasedly. Montana era was far more fierce. The defenses were better. The pass rushes were better. And you ain't had that 5-yard rule, like I said. So, it's way more reasons than just this. Another reason, man, them quarterbacks used to get killed. No favoritism, no this. You just got to get up and shake it off. Just got to get up and shake it off. In the Super Bowl, he went against the likes of Steve Atwater and those different defenses back in the day. With John Elway at quarterback, he had to beat John Elway. Then he had, remember that Cincinnati team with Boomer Esiason? That defense was solid. They beat them. I mean, he had the Cowboys was competitive too with Danny White, Tony Dorsett. It was just competition on every end. The Eagles, some of that time they had Ron Jaworski, you know. Then they had who was the quarterback? Yeah, it was Jaworski. They had a receiver that was practically 7 feet tall, Carmichael. Just throw it up, man. I'll get it. So, Brady is number 2, man. Sorry. If Brady and Montana could switch eras, y'all would be saying the same. You know the closest thing to Montana that I would say is Patrick Mahomes. But some of those years Montana didn't have. Okay, look at when he was in Kansas City. He still was competitive, but he had that elbow problem. Montana said that Brady was the GOAT, but he probably said it just being nice. He know he's the GOAT, man. Montana gave me fits as a kid. When he played the Packers, we wasn't good back then. Oh, it's time to go ride bikes. It's time to go to the basketball courts. We come back, it's like 34-3. And yeah, those teams were loaded, but so was everybody else. Redskins, Bears, Rams, Giants. All these teams loaded. 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 Then you had, let's see. The Buccaneers weren't all that back then. But the Cardinals was competitive at time with Neil Lomax. You know, The competition was way more fierce. And then picture your interdivision games. So, because you still have to play against the AFC. So he still had to play against those Browns teams, the Broncos with Elway, the Dolphins with Marino. Marino was carving people too. The reason why Marino lost that Super Bowl because their defense just wasn't it that year. And there's many more reasons why I say Brady is number 2. Brady's number 2. I still say that Montana is the GOAT for those reasons and more. There you have it. Thanks for watching. Keep tuning in. This is The Truth Man.